Welcome to the Moon in Gemini podcast. I am your witch in residence, April Edwards. This is our week of astrology, where we follow the movement of the sky and listen for what it's asking of us. This week is alive with movement. The energy changes signs rapidly. The mind accelerates, desire changes shape, and the emotional landscape becomes far more sensitive than it first appears. Gemini season begins to stir. And with Uranus now in Gemini, there is a distinct feeling that the atmosphere itself is becoming electrically charged. Thoughts move quickly, conversations carry consequence, and intuition arrives in flashes. But beneath all of that, there is still a question running through the week. Can you stay emotionally honest while everything around you speeds up? Let's walk through it together. May 17th, we begin the week with Mercury returning home. Mercury enters Gemini, a sign it rules. The mind wakes up, communication quickens, curiosity returns. After the slower, more grounded pace of Taurus, this feels like a release of pressure. Ideas move faster now. You may feel more social, more mentally active, restless for information, conversation, or stimulation. This is a mentally charged transit, and because Mercury rules Gemini, its voice becomes especially strong here. But with that comes overstimulation. Too much information can still become noise. Mercury in Gemini conjunct Uranus in Gemini. This is mental electricity, sudden insights, unexpected news, conversations that completely alter perspective. This is breakthrough energy, but it can also feel unstable. The nervous system may feel heightened this week. Sleep patterns may shift. Thoughts may arrive faster than they can be processed. You may suddenly realize something you could not see before, or feel pulled towards entirely new ways of thinking. This is innovation, awakening, the mind refusing to remain confined to old structures. Also on the 17th, Venus forms a sextile to Chiron. This softens the sharpness of the Mercury-Uranus energy. Healing becomes relational. An old conversation, gesture, or moment of vulnerability may open a door towards healing something, especially around self-worth, love, the fear of rejection, or the fear of being fully seen. This is a gentle but meaningful energy. Not dramatic healing, but honest healing. May 18th, Mars enters Taurus, and the pace changes. Mars in Aries acts immediately. Mars in Taurus acts deliberately. This transit slows action down, but strengthens endurance. This is less about impulse and more about persistence. You may notice a stronger desire for stability, more patience around long-term goals, resistance to being rushed. But Mars in Taurus can also become stubborn. Once committed to a direction, it does not easily change course. This is a productive energy if used consciously, especially for building something slowly and sustainably. Also on the 18th, Venus enters Cancer. Relationships soften, emotions deepen, the need for emotional safety increases. Venus in Cancer loves protectively. Nurturing becomes a form of intimacy. You may feel more sensitive this week around home, family, attachments, and emotional reciprocity. This transit asks not only who you love, but where do you feel emotionally held? May 19th, Mercury in Gemini, sextile Neptune in Aries. This transit opens intuition. Mercury in Gemini processes information quickly. Neptune in Aries adds instinct, imagination, and vision. Ideas may arrive suddenly now, not through logic alone, but through inspiration. This is an excellent energy for writing, creative work, spiritual insight, or symbolic thinking. But having good judgment remains important. Not every idea needs immediate action. Mercury in Gemini square the North Node. Tension has entered the chat. This particular transit can create a feeling of mental uncertainty around direction. Too many options, too many thoughts, too many interpretations. Gemini can scatter attention. The North Node asks for meaningful growth. This transit may reveal where distraction is preventing alignment. Not all movement is progress. Mercury in Gemini trine Pluto retrograde in Aquarius. And suddenly the noise cuts through. This is penetrating insight, deep understanding, the ability to recognize the truth beneath appearances. Conversations may feel intense, but clarifying. This is powerful energy for research, reflection, and psychological awareness. Pluto retrograde turns the focus inward, and Mercury helps articulate what is found there. Venus in Cancer sextile Mars in Taurus. Meanwhile, Venus and Mars harmonize beautifully. Water and earth cooperate, desire becomes grounded, affection becomes tangible. This is one of the more stabilizing energies of the week. Relationships feel more secure, physical comfort becomes restorative. This is sensual, embodied energy, not dramatic passion, but sustained connection. May 22nd. Venus in Cancer square Neptune in Aries. Emotions become complicated. Venus squares Neptune. This can blur boundaries in relationships and personal perception. There may be feelings of idealization, confusion, longing, and/or disappointment. Neptune can create fantasy, especially around what we hope someone or something could become. This is beautiful for imagination and compassion, but dangerous for projection. Be careful not to ignore reality simply because a dream feels comforting. Sun in Gemini conjunct Uranus in Gemini. This is awakening at the level of identity. A realization about yourself may emerge suddenly. The need for freedom intensifies. Something within you wants change. This is highly individualistic energy. You may feel pulled towards a new perspective, a different path, a stronger expression of authenticity. This is not subtle. Uranus disrupts what is stagnant, and in Gemini, that disruption begins in the mind. Thankfully, Mercury then sextiles Saturn. This helps stabilize the mental intensity of the week. Saturn gives structure, focus, discipline. After days of rapid insight and overstimulation, this transit helps organize what matters. That's an excellent energy for making plans, writing, studying, grounding ideas into action. Finally, Venus trines the North Node. This is emotional alignment. Connections may feel meaningful now, supportive, fated even. You may recognize more clearly what kind of relationships and emotional environments actually support your growth. This is heart-centered clarity. May 24th. Sun in Gemini, sextile Neptune in Aries. We close the week with imagination and vision. This softens the sharp intellectual edge of the Gemini season. Intuition becomes easier to access. Creativity flows more naturally. This is a beautiful transit for meditation, creative work, reflection, spiritual connection, but not escapism. Meaningful imagination is what's meant here. The kind that helps you envision a different future. This week is mentally active, emotionally sensitive, and energetically charged. It moves through awakening, to adjustment, to discernment, to emotional clarity. The mind speeds up, the heart softens. And somewhere between those two things, a deeper truth begins emerging. But this week asks something important of you. Stay grounded enough to recognize the difference between intuition and projection, because both may feel convincing right now. The sky is changing quickly now. Thoughts are shifting, relationships are evolving, and something inside of you may already sense that life is beginning to move differently. You do not need to rush to understand all of it, but you do need to stay present enough to listen, because the future often arrives first as a feeling. This work grows through word of mouth. If it's been meaningful to you, you can like, share, or subscribe. That's how it reaches the ones who need it.